Movie theaters are no longer the only way we watch movies, but it's certainly a unique experience. Let's take a look at how theaters were created and how they have evolved over the years to what we know and love today. The first example of anything like a movie theater would be Thomas Edison's first kinetoscope parlor in 1894. A kinetoscope was a large box with an eyepiece that the viewer could look through to view a short film. These short films were more like a modern-day animated GIF than a full-length movie, and only one person can view it at a time. Though Edison and his Vitascope were playing at vaudeville, the first noteworthy example of a projected movie was the Lumiere brothers and their cinematograph. The cinematograph was a combination camera, printer, and projector, and it was much lighter than Edison's Vitascope alternative. One of their most famous pictures was A Train Arrives in the Station, which is exactly what it sounds like. Audiences screamed in fear as the train rolled towards the screen because they had never seen anything like it before. The first buildings dedicated to showing movies came about in 1905 with the Nickelodeons. This was a new type of theater which promised 1 hour of movie entertainment for a nickel. This brought movies to the middle and lower classes, and they became extremely successful. The Nickelodeons were actually so successful that they had to start charging more for admission, thus getting rid of the Nickelodeon name around the 1910s. Strangely, food wasn't allowed in the movie theaters at the time. They didn't want obnoxious chewing or smelly food to ruin the experience. Because movie theaters at the time didn't have sound, live music would accompany the film. This was usually a pianist, but larger movie palaces had entire orchestras playing along with the film. Though the technology to play recorded sound along with the movie was available, it wasn't used due to technical issues like a record skipping. In 1926, the Warner Brothers used a new Vitaphone technology to add canned music and sound to the movie Don Juan, but audiences didn't like it. It just wasn't the same as the live musical performance audiences were used to. By the 1930s, sound improved and talkies were made. This let anyone enjoy the movies, even those who couldn't read. But oh no, it's 1929 and the Depression is now a thing. Everyone is hit, including the movie theaters, so what are they going to do about it?
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the...
Theaters have to attract a large crowd, so concession stands with previously forbidden popcorn and candy were made, and it was a huge hit. Toward the end of the Depression, color movies started becoming a thing, but only A-list big-budget movies could afford it until around the 1950s, with the advent of cheaper Eastman color technology. What wasn't in color, however, was television. TV started competing heavily with theaters, as audiences didn't want to leave their homes for on-screen entertainment anymore. To combat this, cinemas started displaying movies in widescreen, transitioning from a 4:3 aspect ratio to the now standard 16:9. 3D movies were also a quick fad, but it was expensive, so cinemas killed it off. In the late 50s and early 60s, drive-in theaters became a huge success. Though they often showed second-rate films, they appealed to the cheap crowds of the newly formed suburbs. You could smoke, eat whatever you like, bring babies, sit in your own car, and do pretty much whatever you like during the movie. They successfully catered to families and teenagers, but many died out due to low profits. And honestly, from the 70s on, theaters haven't changed much. In the 80s, cinemas had to compete with new home videos, televised movies, and video rental stores. Now, theaters were one of the many outlets people could enjoy their favorite films. The advent of digital projection made it much easier to run theaters, and the price of concessions were raised due to studios taking the majority of ticket sales. So where does that put us now? Currently, there are a few niche theaters that serve food at tables for a more high-end experience, and art theaters for film snobs who enjoy old movies, and movies that don't normally play in cinemas. But for the rest of us, the biggest reason to go to the cinema is to see new releases on the big screen with elaborate speaker setups and tasty snacks. But for pretty much everything else, well, we have Netflix.